Have you ever had a moment so small, so ordinary, that you almost ignore it only to realize later that it changed your life forever? Well, this story begins with one of those moments. Before we start, take just a second to support the channel. If you enjoy emotional stories like this one, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our daily news stories. And I'm curious, which country are you watching from today? Tell me in the comments below, because I love seeing where our amazing audience is from. Now, let's begin. The rain fell softly against the tall glass windows of St. Mary's Hospital, creating quiet patterns that slid slowly down the glass like tears. Inside the hospital lobby, the air smelled faintly of coffee and antiseptic. People moved in and out, nurses walking quickly, patients sitting silently, doctors speaking in hushed voices. But in the corner of the waiting area sat someone who looked completely out of place in that busy world. A man named Ethan Cole. Ethan was 32 years old. Tall. Broad-shouldered. Hands rough from years of construction work. But today, those strong hands held something incredibly small. His 8-month-old daughter, Lily. Wrapped in a soft pink blanket, Lily sat comfortably in her father's arms, happily chewing on the corner of a stuffed rabbit toy. Ethan looked tired. Not the kind of tired that comes from a long day of work. The deeper kind. The kind that lives in your bones. Being a single father hadn't been part of Ethan's plan. 8 months ago, when Lily was born, he thought his life would be filled with the normal chaos of a new family. But only 3 weeks after Lily's birth, her mother packed her things and left. No big fight. No dramatic goodbye. Just a quiet note on the kitchen table. "I'm sorry. I can't do this." Since that day, Ethan had learned how to do everything alone. Late-night feedings. Doctor visits. Changing diapers with one hand while holding a bottle in the other. It wasn't easy. But every time Lily laughed, every time she grabbed his finger with her tiny hand, Ethan remembered why he kept going. Suddenly Lily squealed happily. Her tiny fingers slipped, and the stuffed rabbit fell from her hands, landing softly on the shiny hospital floor. "Oh no," Ethan laughed quietly. He bent forward to pick it up. But someone else reached it first. A graceful hand lifted the toy from the floor. Ethan looked up. And that was the moment he saw her. A woman sitting in a sleek, modern wheelchair. She looked like someone who belonged on the cover of a business magazine. Elegant. Confident. Her dark hair was perfectly styled, and she wore a tailored white coat that made her look powerful and professional. But there was something else in her eyes too. Something softer. Something tired. She held out the stuffed rabbit. "I believe this belongs to her," the woman said gently. Ethan smiled as he accepted the toy. "Thank you," he replied. The baby suddenly reached toward the woman, giggling loudly as if she had just met her new best friend. The woman blinked in surprise. Then, slowly, she smiled. And when she smiled, it completely changed her face. For a moment, she didn't look like a powerful executive. She looked like someone who simply needed a reason to smile again. "She's adorable," the woman said softly. Ethan chuckled. "She knows it too." A nurse walking past suddenly stopped. "Good morning, Ms. Hart," she said respectfully. Another nurse nodded as she passed. "Morning, Ms. Hart." Ethan frowned slightly. He had heard that name before. Then it clicked. Olivia Hart. The CEO of Hart Medical Group. One of the youngest hospital executives in the entire state. The woman who ran half the healthcare system in the city. And she was sitting right in front of him. Olivia noticed his expression and smiled slightly. "Yes," she said with a quiet laugh. "That reaction happens a lot." Ethan scratched the back of his head awkwardly. "I didn't expect to meet a CEO in the waiting room." Olivia glanced down at Lily again. "Well, I didn't expect to meet someone who made my morning better either." Lily giggled again, grabbing Olivia's sleeve. Olivia froze. For a second, she looked almost emotional. Then she gently touched Lily's tiny hand. "I'm sorry," Olivia suddenly said. Ethan looked confused. "Sorry?" Olivia nodded slightly. "I shouldn't stare," she explained softly. "It's just, Seeing fathers with their babies always makes me pause. Ethan shifted Lily in his arms. You have kids? He asked. Olivia hesitated. Then she nodded. Yes. Her voice grew quieter. I have a baby too. Ethan smiled. Then you know how crazy life becomes. Olivia laughed softly. Yes, but my situation is a little different. She looked down briefly at her wheelchair. Sometimes people think someone like me shouldn't try to be a mother. The words hung in the air for a moment. Ethan looked at her thoughtfully. Then he said something that Olivia clearly wasn't expecting. Whoever says that is an idiot. Olivia blinked. Ethan shrugged casually. Being a parent isn't about standing up, he continued. It's about showing up. For the first time that morning, Olivia laughed out loud. A real laugh. Not a polite business smile. But the kind of laugh someone makes when they suddenly feel understood. The hospital lobby around them kept moving. People walking. Phones ringing. Doctors rushing past. But for a few seconds, everything felt strangely quiet between them. Two strangers. Two parents. Both carrying more responsibility than most people could see. Lily suddenly clapped her tiny hands happily. Olivia watched her with a gentle smile. You know, Olivia said softly, she might be the happiest person in this building. Ethan grinned. She usually is. Then Lily reached forward again, as if asking Olivia to hold her. Olivia looked surprised. Does she do that with everyone? Ethan shook his head. Nope. Olivia raised an eyebrow. So what does that mean? Ethan smiled. It means she likes you. Olivia looked at the baby again. And for a brief moment, something inside her softened. Maybe it was the innocence in Lily's laughter. Maybe it was Ethan's quiet strength. Or maybe it was simply the reminder that life didn't have to feel so lonely. Neither of them realized it yet. But that simple moment in a hospital lobby would become the beginning of a story neither of them ever expected. A story about mistakes. About second chances. And about two broken lives slowly learning how to become a family. But that part of the story hadn't begun yet. If you enjoyed this chapter, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories like this one. We upload new stories every day. And before you go, tell me in the comments, which country are you watching from? I read every comment, and I love seeing how far our stories travel around the world. Now get ready. Because in Chapter 2, Ethan receives a phone call he never expected, from the CEO herself. And what she asks him next changes everything. Sometimes life changes not with a dramatic moment, but with a simple phone call. For Ethan Cole, that phone call came on an ordinary Tuesday morning. The small apartment was quiet except for the soft humming of the coffee maker and the cheerful babbling of his daughter, Lily. Sunlight slipped through the half-open blinds, painting warm golden lines across the living room floor. Ethan sat on the couch, still half awake, holding Lily in his arms while she happily played with the same stuffed rabbit she had dropped at the hospital the day before. Careful with that, Ethan joked softly. That rabbit has already been through enough adventures. Lily giggled and tried to chew the rabbit's ear. Ethan laughed. Moments like this had become his favorite part of the day. They were simple. Quiet. But real. Just as Ethan reached for his coffee mug, his phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. He glanced toward it. Unknown number. Normally Ethan ignored calls from numbers he didn't recognize. But something made him walk over and answer it. Hello. There was a brief pause on the line. Then a calm, confident voice spoke. Good morning, Ethan. This is Olivia Hart. Ethan blinked in surprise. The CEO from the hospital, he asked. A soft laugh came from the other end of the call. Yes, the same one your daughter charmed yesterday. Ethan looked down at Lily, who was now trying to pull his beard. Well, he said with a smile, she has a way of making friends. Olivia sounded amused. I noticed. There was a short silence before she continued. I hope I'm not interrupting your morning. Ethan glanced at the slightly messy living room, the half-finished bottle on the table, and Lily trying to climb onto his shoulder. Nope, he replied. This is pretty much how every morning looks. Olivia laughed again. Then her voice became a little more serious. I actually called because I wanted to ask you something. Ethan sat back down on the couch, curious. Okay. I'm listening. Our hospital is launching a new program next week, Olivia explained. It's called the Heart Family Support Initiative. Ethan adjusted Lily in his arms. What does it do? It's designed to help single parents, Olivia said. Things like childcare support, flexible work programs, and resources for parents who are raising children alone. Ethan nodded slowly. That sounds like something a lot of people could use. That's exactly the point, Olivia replied. And after meeting you yesterday, I realized something important. What's that? Ethan asked. You reminded me what this program is really about. Ethan was quiet for a moment. No one had ever said something like that to him before. So, Olivia continued, I wanted to ask if you would come to the opening event and share your story. Ethan blinked. My story? Yes, Olivia said gently. Just talk about what life is really like raising Lily. Ethan rubbed the back of his neck. I'm not really good at speaking in front of crowds. That's okay, Olivia said. You don't need a speech. Just honesty. Ethan looked down at Lily. She stared back at him with wide, curious eyes. Well, he sighed, if it helps other parents. I guess I can try. Olivia sounded genuinely happy. Thank you, Ethan. That means more than you know. After they ended the call, Ethan sat quietly for a few seconds. Then Lily grabbed his nose again. All right, he laughed. Looks like we're going to a fancy event. 3 days later, Ethan stood outside the tall glass entrance of Heart Medical Center. The building looked even bigger than he remembered. Inside, people in suits walked confidently through the bright lobby. Ethan suddenly felt very underdressed. He adjusted Lily's tiny jacket. You ready for this? He whispered. Lily responded by clapping her hands. I'll take that as a yes, Ethan smiled. Inside the conference hall, rows of chairs filled the room. Doctors, hospital staff, reporters, community leaders. At the front of the room sat Olivia Hart. She wore a navy blue business suit, her wheelchair positioned confidently near the stage. When she saw Ethan walk in, her expression softened immediately. You made it, she said warmly. Ethan nodded nervously. This place is a little bigger than I expected. Olivia smiled. Just remember what I said. Speak from the heart. The event began a few minutes later. A host introduced Olivia as the CEO behind the new support initiative. The audience applauded as she rolled onto the stage. Her voice was calm and strong. For years, Olivia began, our hospitals have focused on treating illness. But today we're expanding our mission, because families need support outside hospital walls too. The audience listened closely. Then Olivia looked toward Ethan. And today, I want to introduce someone who represents the strength of parents everywhere. She paused. Ethan Cole. Suddenly every eye in the room turned toward him. Ethan stood slowly, holding Lily. His heart pounded as he walked toward the stage. When he reached the microphone, he cleared his throat. I'll be honest, he said. I didn't prepare a speech. A few people chuckled. Ethan smiled nervously. But I guess that's kind of what being a parent is like. You never really feel prepared. More laughter spread through the room. He looked down at Lily. 8 months ago, this little person came into my life. Lily giggled, making the audience smile. But 3 weeks later, Ethan continued quietly, her mom left. The room became silent. Ethan took a deep breath. Since then, it's just been the two of us. He talked about sleepless nights. About learning how to change diapers while half asleep. About the fear of wondering if he was doing everything right. Then he smiled. But every time she laughs, it reminds me why I keep going. Someone in the audience asked softly, why is that? Ethan looked at Lily again. Because love makes the hard parts worth it. The audience burst into applause. But the person who looked most moved was Olivia. As Ethan stepped away from the microphone, their eyes met. And in that moment, something shifted between them. Later that evening, when the crowd had left, Ethan found Olivia sitting quietly in the now empty conference hall. "You were amazing," she said. Ethan shook his head. "I think Lily was the real star." Olivia smiled. "She usually is." Then she looked down at her hands. "Can I tell you something?" she asked quietly. "Sure." Olivia took a slow breath. "Sometimes I feel like I'm failing as a mother." Ethan frowned. "Why would you think that?" "My daughter Emma lives with my parents most of the time," Olivia explained. "Running a company like this takes almost all my time." She looked briefly at her wheelchair. "And being in this chair makes things even harder." Ethan thought for a moment before responding. Then he said something simple. "You showed up today." Olivia looked at him. "That matters more than you think," Ethan continued. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Lily reached toward Olivia again and laughed. Olivia smiled softly. And for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel quite so alone. Sometimes the most beautiful connections in life begin quietly. A simple conversation, a shared laugh, or a moment when two people realize they understand each other in ways no one else does. For Ethan Cole and Olivia Hart, that connection slowly began to grow after the hospital event. It didn't happen all at once. There were no dramatic confessions or grand romantic gestures. Instead, their friendship grew through small, ordinary moments. And strangely, those moments meant everything. A week after the event, Ethan received another message from Olivia. This time it wasn't about work. It was simple. "If you and Lily are free tomorrow, the hospital garden is beautiful in the afternoon. You should come visit." Ethan stared at the message for a moment. He wasn't sure why, but the invitation made him smile. The next afternoon, the hospital garden looked peaceful and warm under the soft sunlight. Tall trees created patches of shade across the green grass. Flowers lined the walking paths. And in the center of the garden sat Olivia in her wheelchair, holding a small cup of coffee. When she saw Ethan pushing Lily's stroller toward her, her face brightened immediately. "You made it," she said. Ethan smiled. Lily insisted. As if on cue, Lily laughed loudly from her stroller. Olivia rolled closer and gently tickled the baby's tiny hand. "You are becoming my favorite visitor," Olivia told her. Ethan sat on the nearby bench. "You might regret saying that," he joked. "She wakes up at 5 in the morning." Olivia laughed softly. For a moment, everything felt normal. Not like a CEO and a guest. Just two people enjoying a quiet afternoon. Over the next few weeks, these visits became more frequent. Sometimes Ethan stopped by the hospital after Lily's doctor appointments. Sometimes Olivia invited them to the garden after work. They talked about everything. Life. Family. Dreams they once had before life changed their plans. And one afternoon, Olivia brought someone special with her. A little girl with dark hair and shy eyes. "Ethan," Olivia said gently, "this is my daughter, Emma." Emma peeked shyly from behind her mother's wheelchair. Ethan crouched down to Emma's level. "Nice to meet you," he said kindly. Lily reached from her stroller and waved her tiny hand. Emma giggled. Within minutes, the two little girls were sitting together on a picnic blanket in the grass, playing with toys. Ethan and Olivia watched them quietly. "They seem to get along," Ethan said. Olivia smiled softly. "Children usually do. They don't overthink things the way adults do." For the first time in years, Olivia felt something she hadn't allowed herself to feel. Peace. But happiness has a strange habit. Just when you begin to trust it, something unexpected happens. One afternoon, Ethan arrived at the hospital earlier than usual. Olivia had asked him to stop by her office to discuss ideas for the family support program. When Ethan reached the executive floor, the hallway was quiet. Her office door was slightly open. As he approached, he heard voices inside. One of them was Olivia's. Ethan stopped. He wasn't trying to eavesdrop. But then he heard something that made him freeze. "Yes," Olivia said from inside the office. "Ethan's story is perfect for the campaign." Another voice responded. "People love inspirational stories." Olivia continued speaking. "A hard-working single father raising a baby alone, It's exactly the kind of story that connects with the public. Ethan felt his chest tighten. The words hit him harder than he expected. Was that all he was to her? An inspirational story? A marketing opportunity? Inside the office, the conversation continued. But Ethan didn't wait to hear the rest. He quietly stepped backward into the hallway. Then he turned and walked away. Each step felt heavier than the last. For weeks, he had believed their friendship was real. But now, it felt like everything had been part of a business strategy. That evening, Olivia sent Ethan a message. "Are you still coming today?" No response. A few minutes later, she called. Straight to voicemail. Olivia frowned. That wasn't like Ethan. Something felt wrong. By nightfall, Olivia had sent 3 messages. Still no answer. Finally, she made a decision. If Ethan wasn't answering his phone, she would go see him. Late that evening, Olivia's car pulled up outside Ethan's apartment building. The streetlights cast long shadows across the sidewalk. She wheeled herself toward the entrance and knocked on the door. Inside the apartment, Ethan heard the knock. He already knew who it was. He opened the door slowly. Olivia looked up at him. "Ethan," she said, relieved. "I was worried. You disappeared today." Ethan crossed his arms. "I think I understand why." Olivia frowned. "What do you mean?" Ethan took a deep breath. "I heard your conversation in the office today." Olivia's expression changed instantly. "You heard that?" "Yeah," Ethan said quietly. "I heard how my story is perfect for your campaign." Olivia shook her head quickly. "No, Ethan, that's not what you think." "So what am I?" Ethan interrupted. "You're inspirational single dad." The words hung in the air. Olivia felt a painful knot form in her chest. "That's not fair," she said softly. Ethan's voice remained calm, but it carried disappointment. "For a moment. I thought we were actually friends." Olivia looked at him, stunned. "We are friends." "Are we?" Ethan replied. For the first time in years, Olivia felt completely powerless. Not because of the wheelchair, but because she realized she might have hurt the one person who had treated her like a normal human being, not a CEO. "Ethan," she said quietly, "please let me explain." But Ethan shook his head. "I think I've heard enough." The door slowly closed. Olivia remained outside in the quiet night. Alone. And for the first time since meeting Ethan, she wondered if she had just lost something incredibly important. Something she hadn't even realized she was starting to care about. Some mistakes happen because people lie. But sometimes, the worst misunderstandings happen when people simply don't explain the truth fast enough. The night Ethan closed the door on Olivia, neither of them slept well. Inside his small apartment, Ethan sat quietly on the couch long after Lily had fallen asleep in her crib. The room was dim, lit only by the soft yellow glow of a lamp in the corner. Ethan leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. He kept replaying the conversation he had overheard in Olivia's office. "Ethan's story is perfect for the campaign." The words echoed in his mind again and again. At first, he had felt angry. But now, the anger had faded. And something else had taken its place. Disappointment. For the first time since Lily's mother left, Ethan had allowed himself to trust someone new. Olivia hadn't treated him like a charity case. She had listened. She had laughed with him. She had cared about Lily. Or at least, he thought she had. Across the city, Olivia sat in her own living room, staring at her phone. Ethan's last message remained unread. She had tried calling again earlier. No answer. The silence hurt more than she expected. Emma, her daughter, had already gone to sleep at her grandparents' house for the night. The large apartment felt unusually quiet. Olivia closed her eyes and sighed. She knew exactly what Ethan had overheard. And she understood why it sounded so wrong. But he hadn't heard the entire conversation. He hadn't heard the part where Olivia defended him. Or the part where she said their friendship wasn't just about the program. Sometimes the truth gets lost in the middle of a sentence. Olivia looked down at her hands resting in her lap. For years, she had been able to solve almost any problem. As CEO of Heart Medical Group, people trusted her to make difficult decisions every day. But this situation felt completely different. Because this time, it wasn't business. It was personal. Finally, Olivia wheeled herself to her desk. She pulled out a sheet of paper. If Ethan wouldn't answer his phone, then she would say everything she needed to say another way. She began to write. The next morning, Ethan opened his apartment door to grab the mail. A single envelope rested on the floor just outside the door. There was no stamp. No return address. Only his name written neatly on the front. Ethan picked it up. Inside was a letter. He recognized the handwriting immediately. Olivia. He hesitated for a moment before opening it. Then he slowly unfolded the paper. Ethan. I understand why you're upset. If I had only heard the part of the conversation you heard, I would probably feel the same way. Ethan frowned slightly. He continued reading. Yes, the program does benefit from real stories. Yes, your story inspires people. But that is not why I wanted to know you. Ethan paused. His eyes moved slowly across the page. The truth is, when I met you in the hospital lobby, you did something no one has done in a very long time. You treated me like a normal person. Not like a CEO. Not like someone in a wheelchair. Just a person. Ethan leaned back in his chair. The letter continued. After my accident 5 years ago, people started treating me differently. Some people pity me. Others avoid me. And when I became CEO, everyone started acting like they had to impress me. But you didn't. You made jokes. You talked about Lily. You made me laugh. And for the first time in years, I forgot about everything else. Ethan stared at the letter quietly. The last lines were written more carefully, almost as if Olivia had struggled to write them. Our friendship was never part of a campaign. I just didn't explain that fast enough. And I'm sorry. Olivia. Ethan folded the letter slowly. For several minutes, he didn't move. Then Lily made a small noise from her crib. Ethan walked over and picked her up. She smiled sleepily. Morning, kiddo, he said softly. Lily grabbed his finger. Ethan sighed. Maybe he had reacted too quickly. Maybe there was more to the story than he realized. Later that afternoon, Ethan found himself walking through the familiar hospital garden. He wasn't sure why he came. Maybe he just wanted answers. The garden was quiet. Birds chirped softly in the trees. And near the center path, Olivia sat in her wheelchair, looking down at the ground. She looked smaller somehow. Less like a powerful executive. More like someone carrying a heavy weight. When she heard footsteps approaching, she looked up. Her eyes widened slightly. Ethan. He nodded. I read your letter. Olivia's expression softened with relief. I wasn't sure you would. They sat quietly for a moment. Then Ethan spoke. You should know something. Olivia looked at him carefully. I was hurt, Ethan admitted. I know, Olivia said softly. But I might have jumped to conclusions. Olivia shook her head. No. I should have explained things better. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Lily suddenly reached toward Olivia and grabbed the sleeve of her jacket. The baby burst into laughter. Olivia blinked in surprise. Then she laughed too. Your daughter has perfect timing, she said. Ethan smiled slightly. She does that. Lily continued giggling as if nothing had ever been wrong. And in that moment, the tension between Ethan and Olivia slowly began to disappear. Not instantly. Not completely. But enough for both of them to realize something important. Their connection had survived the misunderstanding. And sometimes, that's how real relationships grow stronger. Not by avoiding mistakes, but by choosing to understand each other after them. If you're enjoying this emotional story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We upload new stories every day for you. And tell us in the comments below. Which country are you watching from today? Sometimes life doesn't give you the family you planned. Instead, it gives you the family you need. After the misunderstanding in the hospital garden, something changed between Ethan and Olivia. Not in a dramatic way. There were no big speeches or emotional confessions. Instead, their connection grew quietly, one small moment at a time. Ethan started visiting the hospital garden again with Lily, and Olivia found herself looking forward to those afternoons more than anything else in her busy schedule. 4 years, her life had been filled with meetings, decisions, and responsibilities. But now, something new had entered her routine. Laughter. The soft laughter of 2 little girls playing together. Because soon, Emma began joining them more often too. At first, Emma had been shy. She stayed close to Olivia's wheelchair, watching Ethan and Lily from a distance. But children have a way of breaking down walls quickly. Within a few weeks, Emma and Lily were inseparable. They played together in the grass. They shared toys. Sometimes they even argued over the same stuffed rabbit. And every time that happened, Ethan and Olivia would exchange amused smiles. One afternoon, the 4 of them sat together in the garden while the girls played nearby. The sunlight filtered softly through the tall trees. It was peaceful. Quiet. Normal. Olivia watched the girls run across the grass. "You know," she said softly, "Emma hasn't laughed this much in years." Ethan glanced toward the children. "Kids need space to be kids," he replied. Olivia nodded slowly. "For a long time I thought success meant sacrificing everything else." Ethan looked at her. "And now?" Olivia smiled gently. "Now I think success might mean learning how to share life with the right people." Ethan didn't respond immediately, but the look in his eyes said more than words ever could. Over the next few months, their lives slowly blended together. Ethan started helping Olivia with the Heart Family Support Initiative. His experience as a single father helped shape many of the program's ideas. The foundation expanded quickly, offering childcare resources and support groups for parents across the city. The project became more than a program. It became a mission. And somewhere along the way, Ethan and Olivia became something more than friends. But the moment that truly changed everything happened on a quiet autumn evening. The hospital garden looked different that day. Soft golden leaves covered the walking paths. The air felt cool and calm. Olivia had asked Ethan to meet her there after work. When Ethan arrived, Lily sat in her stroller while Emma played nearby. Olivia waited beside the large oak tree at the center of the garden. "You wanted to talk?" Ethan asked. Olivia smiled slightly. "Yes, but I think you should say something first." Ethan looked confused. Then he reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small box. Olivia froze. "Ethan." He took a deep breath. "I know our story didn't start in the most normal way." Olivia laughed softly. "That might be the understatement of the year." Ethan smiled. "But somehow, all the unexpected parts brought us here." He knelt down beside her wheelchair. Not in front of her. Beside her. So they could look at each other at the same level. Olivia's eyes filled with emotion. "Ethan," she whispered, "you don't have to." "Yes," he said gently. "I do." He opened the small box. Inside was a simple ring. "Olivia Hart," he said, his voice calm but sincere, "you once told me people didn't believe someone like you could have a normal life." Olivia nodded slowly. "And I told you something that day," Ethan continued. "Being a parent isn't about standing up, it's about showing up." Olivia smiled through tears. Ethan continued. "You've shown up for me. For Lily. For Emma." He held the ring carefully. "So I'm asking if you'll keep showing up, for the rest of our lives." Olivia laughed softly through her tears. "Yes," she said immediately. "Yes, of course I will." Emma and Lily suddenly clapped their hands as if they understood what was happening. Ethan slipped the ring onto Olivia's finger. And in that quiet garden, their family officially began. 1 year later, the Heart Medical Auditorium was filled with people once again. But this time, the event was even bigger. The Heart Family Support Initiative had grown into a nationwide foundation helping thousands of parents. On stage stood Olivia and Ethan together. Beside them were Emma and Lily, now cheerful toddlers who could barely stand still for more than a few seconds. Reporters and cameras filled the room. Olivia smiled as she stepped toward the microphone. "A year ago," she began, I met someone in a hospital lobby. The audience listened quietly. At the time, I apologized for staring at his baby. People chuckled softly. But that moment changed my life. She looked at Ethan beside her. He showed me something important. She paused. That love doesn't wait for perfect circumstances. Ethan squeezed her hand gently. Their family might not have looked traditional. A powerful CEO in a wheelchair. A former construction worker turned foundation manager. 2 children who had accidentally brought them together. But somehow, everything fit perfectly. As the event ended, Ethan lifted Lily into the air while Emma hugged Olivia's arm. Olivia watched them with a peaceful smile. Because sometimes life begins with a mistake. Sometimes it begins with an apology. But if you're lucky, it can turn into something far more beautiful than you ever expected. A second chance. A new beginning. And a family built not by plans, but by love. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories like this. We upload new videos every single day. And before you go, tell us in the comments. Which country are you watching from today? I love reading your comments and seeing how far these stories travel around the world. And until the next story, take care of yourselves and the people you love.